Last week on Sailing Adrift, we started working in the engine room by installing the bilge pump, which proved to be somewhat more cumbersome than we had anticipated.
Because nothing in a boat is easy.
All right, so that's all we can do for today. We have the 1.5-inch discharge hose on order that will ultimately end up over there.
So yeah, everything is taking just a little longer than we thought.
I'm gonna call this a raging success.
A raging success.
Yeah.
We also decided it would be a good idea to throw paint all over the engine room.
Well, that should be fine. You didn't get that much on it. I can just see white smoke.
So here's our mega task list. It's getting pretty daunting, so let's kick off today with an easy one. Today, we're going to soap test both fuel tanks.
Before we get too deep into all this fun stuff, there was a couple of things I wanted to test for that would be very detrimental should they fail. One of those things is the tanks, the fuel tanks. These I think are original to the boat. They seem like they're in really good shape and they've been empty for ever. So what we're gonna do is they have what? A hole for the tank level sensor, a hole to fill it up, a vent hole, a return hole, and a supply hole, and a like clean out plug on the bottom. Clean out plug on the bottom is obviously blocked. The sender unit is obviously blocked. The fill is open and I bought little plugs for the others and I've installed those, and then I installed that valve right there and shut it off. So it should be completely sealed up with the exception of one hole, which is right here, the fill.
Okay.
We're gonna spritz it down with this soapy water and then blow air into it and look for bubbles. And we don't want to see any bubbles. That's the idea. Luckily, I know it's cold, but I filled this with nice warm water.
Good thinking.
Thanks, but the sad part is that was 3 days ago.
Oh.
So now it's cold. There's some insulation around the perimeter that is very difficult to get to.
Yeah, watch how this quick little demo project becomes the struggle of a lifetime.
And basically, the worry about insulating your tanks with some sort of adhesive insulation, you don't want any condensation occurring right up against the tank and being held there by the insulation and slowly rotting a hole. So it's better to have air circulation around your entire tank. So I've been trying to get this stupid old insulation off the tank, and it is a lot more difficult than it seems. It won't come off in one piece because it's adhesive sealed to the tank. But if it goes slowly,
Oh, that was a nice one.
it is, but I still broke it. So now the only area I have left to try to get insulation out of is down in there. And I've tried everything to kind of like try to pry it out through the bottom. But that's not really working. It's like I can grab it, but I can't grab it and pull.
I'm afraid it's just gonna rip loose and you're gonna shoot back.
Well, I'm not pulling that hard.
Can I try?
Yeah. Just pull it out of there, Kelly. No big deal.
Well, I thought maybe my hand would be less fat.
Can you even grab it?
I can grab it with like these two tips, but
So this was a giant waste of time.
yeah.
Just pull it out.
When in doubt.
Let me go see if I can grab like a pair of channel locks or something that we can get a grip on it with.
I didn't realize how much was left in there. Because you pulled out so much.
No joke, this is like 45 minutes later and the struggle is getting very real.
Would it help if I held the board away from your hand?
Well,
It seems like a three-handed job.
it pulls
What
it.
about your back scratcher thing?
It's the same thing. Like,
No, like you can hook it around the backside and pull it towards you. I returned with these hooky doodle bobs.
okay, go for it. This is not going in there. Rusty fat thing.
Okay, gentle. Oh yeah, it's totally working.
You don't break my back scratcher.
I'm not. It's just kind of clawing at the bones and breaking it up.
I think that's exactly what I said when you suggested it.
Good job for being right.
Just don't shove it back farther.
I'm not. I'm just making sure the sides are.
That's what I've been doing the whole time you were gone.
You're like a wedge to keep this open. I can't push and pull at the same time.
Why?
Like a block or something?
There's a block right above you. That white thing in the back corner. Watch your butt. That's not where you should be sitting.
God, Chris.
Well, like you can't sit on delicate instrument stuff. You bend one thing and it costs $1,000 to fix.
No, but your attitude.
My attitude. What's wrong with my attitude?
You hear yourself?
Yeah, my ears work.
Is there a product that disintegrates foam?
Try to grab it with those pliers. I did the other side. It's not impossible. This one's just being stubborn.
Can I see my phone or like a light or something?
There's a plug-in right above you. Move up and down, like
I can't.
when you grab it.
My hand's just wedged in there, so it's. I can move my fingers up and down, but I can't actually move my hand. Does this piece of wood need to be here?
I can't get it off. That's like, it's got this attached to it, first of all, and second of all, there's like stripped screws at the top and the bottom, so it won't come off.
This is Chris, like 2 seconds later.
Is there any earmuffs or anything, Kel? There's none in the...
They're in the house.
Okay. This wood is released. We're not gonna be able to get it out of there, but it should give us a lot more room.
Wow. How satisfying is that?
Now that that fun's over, we need to convert our screw collector from suck to blow. Alright. Time to spritz. Generously spray this down, focusing on things like corners and seams and welds and fittings. Then after we're done, you can give a nice scrub, Kelly. How'd that be? The power of knockoff Dawn. Okay, cross your fingers for no bubbles.
Okay.
See any?
No?
Look around, like the fittings and stuff. Are there any bubbles?
There are some bubbles.
What?
There's some bubbles!
Where?
On the fittings. Where the bolts are coming from.
Let me see it. Here, you gotta do this.
Okay.
You just barely put it over the top. Are you doing it?
Yeah.
I don't think you are.
This?
No, like put it on top of there, like
What
blowing at it. Just don't create a complete seal, but like
What are you talking about?
like this.
Yeah?
Well, you're like blowing it at it from 3 inches away.
I was pointing at it to you. God.
Well, nothing's bubbling, so
You don't see the bubbles. It's on my
because
video.
you're not blowing air into the tank. That's why.
Your attitude sucks.
I know, you keep telling me. All right, we were seeing some bubbles right around this 3/8" fitting. Luckily, I think it's just the fact that the plug can be tighter because I don't think it was around the edge. I hope. Okay, put new soap on, tighten it up a bit. It definitely was not super tight, so hopefully this go around we will have no bubbles. Hit it! Okay. No bubbles.
Yay!
One down, one to go.
Where's the other one? Oh, the other
See, there's a whole nother
Are you
tank
gonna
over
have
there,
a
Kelly.
foam party over there, or?
No, I already took those off. See how I was able to get the wood off the whole side? So that one was a lot simpler.
Do we need to take the staircase out?
Ready. I'll spray it down.
Okay, get your soap.
Okay, dear. I'll get my soap.
Go get your soap.
These rooms get dirty fast.
Yeah.
Not even engineering. Okay. You got your vacuum? This side looks good. We'll check the front. Okay, go. Are you doing it?
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like it. It didn't go boom. There we go.
That's supposed to be gentle.
You are, but we got to get to the point where we know it's pressurized. All right, kill it. As far as I can tell, knock on wood, I don't think we have any engine leaks.
That's good.
Or fuel tank leaks.
That's great news.
So we'll be able to put the shrouds back on after you clean them off and get all that old foam stuff off. I know you're really looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Now that we have tested the tanks to make sure that they are sound and that we don't have any leaks, and put the faces back on so we can mount some things on here, we've got to set up our system. And the considerations I'm looking at is, you know, if you're in a heavy sea state and you got to deal with this stuff, I mean, it's a fuel polishing system, but there is a scenario where you're running out of fuel and you need to transfer it over and you got a problem and you're gonna have to deal with it. It's very unlikely, but well, why not plan for it? Here's our considerations. It'll be easy for us, or easier for us, to get into this area. For the most part, this area will only be, the thing that goes over the top of this will be the extreme cases removal, whereas this one will be the easiest hatch access because the galley configuration is going to make this side a lot more accessible. So if we are in the middle of a nasty sea state and we get down here and we have to deal with something, we're going to be able to take care of more from over here than we will from over there. But the obstacles are obviously the battery box is over here, and we're going to probably put the starter battery right in this area once we get the platform in place. There's really no reason not to have this platform, so let me grab that real quick. Give us an easier base with which to work on. There we go. The starter battery will probably be tucked right up against this stringer. It really won't impede working in this area too much. I guess it kind of prevents you from getting down on your knees. Maybe it would be better off to put it right up against the back, but then the fuel thing gets in the way. Man, got to deal with things like pumps and fuel filters and things like this. I think this is our area of easiest access. So we're going to make primarily this area where we want to put everything nice and tall. I think we'll go up high because you're going to have the high pressure pump for the water maker live right here, and there's, you know, like a big spinning thing of death right down there when the engine's running and stuff like that. So we are going to go from there to the pump, to the backflow, to the pre-filter, to the water separators, and then it'll go up through the top and into this tank. That is the plan. We'll utilize this fill. I'm going to take a 2-inch cap, put it on there, and it'll have a 1/2-inch nipple hole in the top. We'll put a little fill point on that. That's the game plan. There are some additional problems to account for, namely this pump. This pump goes this direction and only this direction, and it's really inconvenient for all the ways I want to set this thing up. There's really only one rule when it comes to orienting a pump, and that is don't orient it like this, because if it leaks on the body of the pump. You can orient it like this. This is probably the best way. You can orient it like this. You can orient it like this. Those are all fine because if they leak, it drips down the front. Only when it's oriented like this, you have a problem with drips. But with the way this is directed, it's going to make installing it difficult. This might be the only component that makes the most sense to install on the starboard side of the boat. I'm going to do some thinking, and then I'll get back to you. You don't have to watch me think. That's painful for everyone. So, yeah. Here is where I think I'm going to put the pump. And it flies right into the face all that stuff I was talking about being easy to access. But I don't think there should be a whole lot of time where I need to get over here. And if I do, it is accessible. And once you're over here, it's relatively comfortable because I'm on a platform with some good space all around. And this will make the directional flow conducive to the system. So I think this is where this is going to be. The raw water strainer is going to live right up here, and then we'll tuck our pre-filter and backflow on this side, and we'll just put the 2 Raycor filters over on that side. Easy peasy. Hello and welcome everyone. It is me, Chris, doing a voiceover. How about that? So today we're going to talk about our main plan for our fuel tanks. What's cool about our boat is we have 2 tanks. They're both the exact same size, one on the port and one on the starboard. And that kind of gives us a unique opportunity that I'm going to exploit. The tanks are mirror images of each other. They both have a supply at the near bottom. At the top there are 2 holes, one for the return from the diesel engine and one for the vent to allow air into the tank while we're filling. Speaking of filling, they both have a fill line that is a 2-inch pipe at the top, and then at the bottom they have a little plug. We didn't label that on this drawing, so I apologize for that, but you can see it down there by the supply. It's a little drainage plug to get all the sludge and nasty stuff out. On our boat, we're not going to use the port side fill. Crazy, I know. But what we're going to do instead is create a fuel polishing system so that we always fill up the starboard tank and never fill up the port tank. So the only way the port tank gets filled is if it's been cleaned first. That means the port tank will never have dirty diesel, which is awesome. A lot of people have to get a recirculating fuel polishing system to try to get all the gunk out that's already there. But in this setup, we will never have gunk there. So we will always have clean fuel going into the engine, and that can't be bad at all. We're going to achieve that by taking a fuel pump to draw from the starboard side tank, and then we're going to run it through a backflow so it doesn't end up back in the starboard tank. And from that backflow, we're going to go into a 5-micron filter. This is just like a standard water filter that's made of polypropylene, so it's able to withstand diesel fuel. And it's in a stainless steel housing. That thing should be very bulletproof, and we shouldn't have to change that filter often because we're not constantly using this like we would a water supply. But before we put it through that 5-micron filter, we're going to put a T in the line and run a pressure gauge up to the instrument panel. This will actually tell us when it's time to change the filter if we're not doing it regularly, because the pressure will either go up or down depending on which side of that filter you put it on. Basically, if that filter starts to get blocked, you're going to build up pressure on the supply side. So we'll be looking for a build-in pressure when we know we need to change out that filter. From the 5-micron filter, we're going to run our system into a Y diverter. So from that Y, we're going to go into a fuel water separator. These are vitally important. This is the whole reason why you polish your fuel, because water in your fuel line is terrible on engines. It causes rust inside the tank. It causes problems inside the engine. You just don't want water in your fuel, and sadly, it's not an uncommon thing to find water in fuel. So these separate the water from the fuel by using a cyclone action to separate the two. We have 2 of them. We inherited with the boat. We're going to use them, but the way we're going to use them is we're going to make them A-B optional with those diverters. So if A is functioning fine and we're using it, and then it gets a block, we can divert it to B and then service A without losing the functionality of the fuel separator. Once we get past the separator, we have gorgeous clean fuel. So it's time to put it in our gorgeous clean tank. We converted the top of the fill to accept the discharge from the fuel separators. So that'll go right up into the top of the tank and fill it up. There you have it. That's the system. A lot of people are going to wonder about balance and things like that, but here's my overarching idea for what the filling up of our tanks look like. Day 1, we hit the fuel dock. We fill up the starboard side tank all the way to the top. Then we leave. Flip on the pump, run all that fuel into the port tank. Now we have a lopsided boat with a bunch of fuel on the port side, and we need to balance that. So we go back to the dock the next day and fill up the starboard side tank again with arguably dirty fuel. Now we have a perfectly balanced tank. Then we take off, and we're sailing and we're motoring, and we run about half of our port side tank supply out of the tank, and we're unbalanced again. We'll just flip the switch, turn on the pump, and balance the tanks. And it's just an ongoing process of paying attention to your fuel gauges and balancing your tanks. So we can use our fuel tanks as kind of ballasts to make sure that our boat stays as balanced as we can possibly make it. Other than a little monitoring, I don't think there's a whole lot of negatives associated with this idea. But if you think it's stupid, I'd love to hear about it. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I might not agree with them, but I'd love to hear it. I done installed us a fuel polishing system.
Yeah, you did.
So before we get going, I will a little other work I've been doing. I'll show you. Check this out. Temporary setup so we can get some power to the thing. Check this out. Ready? Takes a minute. There!
So light and bright.
Yeah, I installed some LED strips here, here, and here underneath. I also installed, there is AC outlets, one pair tucked under here and one tucked under here. So it should give us access to the whole engine room. There's a bit of back and forth on the internet of whether an AC outlet in an engine room is smart. These will be GFI protected, but that's for human beings, not for sparks. The big thing you're worried about is, igniting a gas that is down here and flammable when you make a spark. But with a diesel engine, that's not as big a concern. You'd be more inclined to have a problem if there was propane down here. Plus we have a nice big engine room, and these are spread out and up high, so I don't think we've got the risk that you'd associate with electrical outlets in a gasoline-based engine room. All right, let's get into it, Kelly.
Okay.
This place needs to sanitize again. We need to sanitize it. We need to clean it. It needs to be clean.
Sanitize, we want to clean everything, clean it off, vacuum, keep it clean. First thing we gotta do, keep it clean. When it's clean, we keep this clean, and sanitize.
Sanitation is key for diesel engines.
I've heard.
We call these tanks, we've named them.
We have.
Yeah, I just did just now.
Okay.
This is sucio, and that's limpio.
Explain.
That's Spanish. Dirty and clean.
Oh.
Here's our starboard tank. The fill lives back here. You don't need to see that. It's a standard 2-inch fill.
We already
it
know
goes
that.
to the deck. There's a deck plate. Fuel will go in here, and then this valve will allow it to head out of this area. Oh, that's restricted. I'm gonna have to fix that. That's annoying. Look at this. Easily fixable, but kind of annoying. I will just slide it down so it goes vertically instead of horizontally.
Smart.
Anyway, fuel will eventually be able to travel into this pump. Pump will draw fuel through this backflow so it doesn't come back into the tank. Past this little spot right here is where we'll tee in to put our pressure gauge. And as that pressure rises, we know that this is getting more and more dirty. This is our 5-micron filter. Fuel will go through this. This is kind of a unique housing. It's stainless steel. I wanted stainless steel because diesel fuel, but if you think about it, all the fuel tanks that you store your gasoline and your diesel for like around the house are those, like jerry cans, and those are all plastic, so what's the big deal? Anyway, this little pouch has been repurposed to hold the housing tight here. So there's that. Fuel goes through here, through the Y valve, and either goes into one of our 2 fuel water separators, and then past that goes back into a Y valve, heads under the tank, and pops out right over here. And then fuel comes here, comes around the corner, and ties right into this tank.
Beautiful.
One of the things that I decided to do is, if you notice, each of these connections are only made with one hose clamp, and you're supposed to use 2, but nothing, if it fails, is going to cause the boat to sink. I mean, you'll fill it full of diesel fuel, which would suck, but the little stubbies on these aren't that long, so to try to get 2 on there is a little tough. And reading books and things like that is basically like, you're better off to have one well-seated hose clamp than try to fit 2 on something that doesn't really fit.
Okay.
So I went with 1 throughout this system. Anything that's below the water line or lets in seawater, there's definitely going to be 2 clamps on that. So this fills up this tank and dribbles in there into limpio. And then from there, we allow the fuel to flow. It goes around the back, under the engine, and ties right here into the old Perkins Sabre. Right there. And right next to it is our little priming pump. Then fuel goes through the engine. It uses what it wants, but it's not wasteful. It doesn't have to use it all. Not like a gas engine. The return exits through here, heads back down, back underneath, and this one actually goes all the way up and follows the hydraulic system and pops in right there for the return fuel. It goes back into the tank. Next to that, actually on both sides, is our 5/8 inch, this one. That is our vent. So the vent actually off of both tanks and then tees together here and then back here, comes out of the engine room through here, and then this will have a wall on it eventually, goes up around the corner and out into the aft pedestal. So we vent well above the water line, right on the center line of the boat. So no matter what keel we're doing, we're still venting the gas tanks. And I'll show you the little connection at the top, and that'll be that. Comes up right through here, and then vents out right here in this back corner. And come take a look, Kelly.
Yeah.
This cool little vent with screening, so no bugs will get in there.
Sweet.
Yeah. There it is, Kelly.
There it is.
We have the cleanest fuel in all the land. What do you think about that?
I like how you named the tanks.
Do you like the names of the tanks?
Yeah.
Do you remember what they are?
Susio and Limpio.
That's right.
Yeah.
More engine room fun next week. Stay tuned. Kelly is really enjoying these series. She finds this stuff so fascinating.
Yeah, for every lame episode, I get to buy a beanie.
They aren't lame. These are the ones I like.
Hey you, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed what you saw and you want to keep following along, become a subscriber. Just hit that subscribe button below. And special thanks to our patron crew. We really appreciate your support.
Here I am doing it.
Ready to receive. Oh.
I've never heard of anything called cat crap. Are you sure that's what it's called?
Pretty sure.
Good thing this is the engine room. I don't really care about the paint job, but I kind of do care about the paint job. Susio just happens to also be on the starboard side.
How about that?
We could call it Pimpio.
No. There's so much stuff in your hair.
Do I?
Yeah.
Well, let's leave it there.
Okay.